Welcome to Pop Culture Maniacs' podcast. This week it's your regular host Kieran Freemantle and Pop Culture Maniacs' TV editor Gene Henegan. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic will be on the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I think best thing to start with will be our general thoughts on the franchise. So, Gene, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I remember being very, I would say, skeptical about whether or not you could turn a Disney theme park ride into a film series. But after watching the first one, I was absolutely hooked. I thought it was hilariously funny and a real fun film. And then every subsequent film felt more and more derivative and disappointing. So I'm one of those folks who really loved the initial film and then felt more and more disappointed as the films continued on.
So it's all like the general, that's pretty much the general consensus, I feel. That first one, pleasantly surprised and everything not so great, though. I think the original trilogy is still pretty revered because the scores on IMDb for Dead Man's Chest and At World's End still quite high, and they're like 7 point something, so fairly respectable. And then obviously the two after that aren't so well received. Before we started recording, I did a quick bit of research, and obviously I knew that the Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one was considered a big risk because of a few things like theme park rides don't do well because the Country Bears film did really poorly to the point that Michael Eisner was nearly pulled the plug. Plus, pirate films weren't doing very well for a long time because famous one was Cutthroat Island, where that tanked the studio and tanked to the careers of the director and the actress. And even like Roman Polanski had struggled with the pirate films with the simply named Pirates in 1986. So it's considered it was a huge risk. And like the original idea was to do a more straightforward, like Errol Flynn swashbuckling story. Then it evolved into this sort of big fancy franchise that we all know and love, I think, is in quotation marks.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm sure we'll get more into this, but so much of the success of the film was, the choice to cast Johnny Depp. Without that performance, it's just your average run-of-the-mill story. But he's just so magnetic and so weird and so different that I think it sets the entire franchise up to be a success. And I may be incorrect, but I'm fairly certain that there was some pushback on him having a performance like that because it was seen as potentially alienating to viewers, but it turned out to be the key to the entire film series.
Yeah, well, I certainly know he wasn't the first choice because Matthew Mcconaughey was considered. I believe one of the screenwriters were thinking of someone like a Hugh Jackman, and at the time, well, see, Johnny Depp was well known. He wasn't like the big megastar he became because of this franchise. He was it was still seen as a bit of a risk with someone like him taking the role. But obviously, absolute masterstroke, and obviously became so huge afterwards.
Yeah, I would actually pay good money to see Matthew McConaughey attempt a British accent and try to be a pirate.
Yes, that would have been weird. At least Hugh Jackman, Australians generally tend to do quite good English accents.
Yeah, and his would have been definitely much more straightforward. But McConaughey trying to be a British pirate would have been something to see.
Yeah. There's obviously obviously the success of the first one did launch it into this big franchise because it was a fairly straightforward pirate. It was a fairly straightforward fancy adventure, the first one. Then the second two were the ones where they really when really dived into this myth making and lore they had with, dragons, Davy Jones's locker, all that sort of Calypso. Just sort of went so big so quickly.
Yeah, it kind of lost some of its, charm because it became so obsessed with the mythology around it. And it could have just been a fun movie series about Johnny Depp and Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom trying to fight things.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was originally meant to be, because it was. I think there are some rumors that it was originally meant to be a film based on the Treasure on Monkey Island video game series, and then for whatever reason they either didn't get the rights or whatever, so they turned it to Pirates of the Caribbean. But because of those are like these point and click adventure games with quite a lot of humor. You could see, if you ever played or even seen some of the footage from the games, you could see the influence of Monkey Island.
Yeah, I've never actually played the games, but I have been on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride multiple times, and it was very cool to see elements of that kind of transformed. And now, if you go on it, you get actual Johnny Depp, animatronic Johnny Depp talking to you. So it's interesting.
For a sort of fun clip when they were promoting the fifth film, he actually was on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, like surprising some of the guests.
That would have been the coolest thing.
Yeah, that's because as well with the thing with the franchise, because obviously Johnny Depp wasn't actually the main character. You could argue that the main characters were Elizabeth and Will, but Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, respectively. He was such a force that he essentially took over the franchise. Literally did in the fourth and fifth films.
Yeah, and I think that's, in my opinion, what really made it suffer. I'm not the biggest Orlando Bloom fan. I don't particularly find him that engaging. But Keira Knightley and Johnny Depp played really, really well off each other. And without that foil, it just felt like they were throwing in new characters to try to fill that void. And I don't blame them for leaving the franchise because the stories got ridiculous. But it certainly was missing them in the final films.
Yeah, well, their story was completed, so hence why they didn't come back for the full film anyway. With the fourth and fifth film, it was, like, as you said, trying to recapture that energy with some new other with like cheaper but young up and coming alternatives. So Sam Claflin was in the fourth one, and the French actress who was also in that god awful Guy Ritchie King Arthur film. And then it was obviously not Brendan, young Australian guy, and Cara, I don't know how to pronounce her surname, but she was in like Skins, did the fifth film, because she had the audacity of being a woman who was interested in science.
I remember watching the fourth film and seeing Sam Claflin and being like, my gosh, this guy's not great. And then he was in Hunger Games, yes?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was Finnick, yeah. And when I saw him in that, I was shocked at how good he was. And that was kind of my moment where I was like, oh, the fourth film is definitely not good then, because he actually can act.
Yeah, so he's done a lot better after Pirates of the Caribbean. I remember when I saw the fourth one in the cinema, I was like, in the cinema, not just cinemas, implies more than one, that I heard some girls talking, they really fancied him as, so he had sex appeal.
He certainly did. He's got those piercing eyes, and I'm thrilled that he's gone on to bigger and better things after that.
Yeah. I do have a bit of a soft spot for some of the other films afterwards. I do quite like Dead Man's Chest. I think it's, it still has some amazing sequences, particularly like that final battle against the Kraken, where it was life and death. Obviously, and And with the fourth one, I sort of see it as a bit like an Indiana Jones style film, since it is trying to find the fountain of youth, and it's sort of a fairly straightforward adventure with Bilfer. So obviously, I don't hate it like other people do.
I mean, the set pieces and the like battles were always strong. Yeah, I don't think anyone could say, the crazy special effects they did were bad. It's just the stories just got so convoluted and strange in a weird, not particularly engaging way. But the set pieces were great.
Well, you can say that with all the films. It was like all the constant betrayals and backstabbing. Like you just get confused with like, who's on what side? Ah!
Exactly.
There is that side to it. The plotting did get convoluted, and it was the same for when they did, because it was pretty much the same team who did the Lone Ranger film as well. That was essentially Pirates of the Caribbean Goes West.
That one was just a disaster.
So you get a bit of Schadenfreude when you hear of a company like Disney lose a lot of money.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that Disney can make such huge missteps and then still be Disney and then come up with some really brilliant things. It's crazy.
Yeah, and obviously Jerry Bruckheimer, who produced them all, he tried to replicate the formula as well with Prince of Persia series. So basically get a load of other up and coming talents for basically Pirates of the Caribbean Goes East.
Yeah, that did not work out well for anybody.
I think my main interest was quite like Gemma Arterton.
Fair, yeah, fair.
Yeah, because obviously, as we talked about as well, with the obviously special effects, and all the set pieces are very important to the franchise. You say with Dead Man's Chest and At World's End, they really did push the boundaries of what they could do with special effects, and that CGI still holds up for particularly with David Jones, the motion capture for that, and it was even like seemingly simple, but it's very complex actually. Like certain a stone turned into a crab.
Yeah, I still remember those set pieces, even though I can probably not tell you the main plots of most of the final Pirates of the Caribbean films, but I just remember being truly mesmerized by what they were doing on screen.
Yeah. As well, I have quite a few memories involving the third one because I saw it with my mum. We went to cinema, and they were talked into getting like the premium seats. Because I think that person really got on her commission that day because because pretty much everyone was sitting in the premium seats and the rest of the cinema was clear. So it was quite, everyone tightly packed in this one area. Also, the first time I went to a film where they actually had an intermission. There's a few fun. And British film critic Mark Commode, he hated the Pirates of the Caribbean films, especially the first three. And if you go on YouTube, he's got like a 10-minute long rant about it, and it's a lot of hyperbole. It is quite amusing. I quite like the idea he said describing Kieran Knightley and Orlando Bloom like watching two chairs mate. And he said like if he was given the offer that he can marry Orlando Bloom, but he can only see him once every 10 years. He said, yeah, I'll sign me up right now.
Yeah, I do remember the critical appeal, not so great, but yeah. Everyone seemed to think I remember the Johnny Depp performance definitely got a lot of. Did he get an Oscar? I think I got an Oscar nomination for it.
He got an Oscar nomination for the first one because.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, not
Which,
so much.
Looking back, interesting, but I think he probably deserved it. It was something I'd never seen before.
Yeah, it was certainly. And I think certainly with the first one, there was still that bit of humanity with him. He still had those sort of quiet moments, like the story, like when him and Kieran Knightley were stuck on the was was stuck on the island which the rum traders used, rum smugglers used, and like as well, like still being the hero when he goes and saves Kieran Knightley after Elizabeth Swann when she fainted.
And I feel like that sequence on the Rum Island is probably the best remembered part of any one of the films.
Yes, I remember that drunk dancing and singing.
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously, he's such a obviously, particularly Jack Sparrow became such a marketable character, and obviously it's generally a fun costume for a lot of people to wear at Halloween or whatever, or for cosplayers. And obviously, the Pirates franchise has such potential to go into other media as well. So video games, or they could do an animated series or whatever. Books.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't. I mean, I guess back then it might have been a little harder than it would be today to launch kind of the crazed video game insanity, but I don't remember a ton of outside tie-ins. I guess, 2003 was a different time, but I don't remember them really taking as much advantage as they could have on marketing all of it.
Yeah, you'd have thought, especially after you'd have thought with the sequels, they could have done more. I think there was like some tie-in games, and maybe like some like children's books. That's about it, as I remember seeing of like other media.
And I suppose it probably would have been harder because the demographics that really loved the film. Let's see, 2003, I was like, oh gosh, in high school, so like 16, 17. And all my friends loved the film, so I guess you'd need more kind of adult tinged things, which is harder to market to than children, because it's not really a children's movie. It's more of kind of like a teenager adult film. So I guess that probably contributed to some of the difficulties.
Yeah, it's I think I would sort of see it as I said, more of a, well, if not quite all the family, all sort of ages, maybe not like really young kids. I think if I saw them when I was younger, they probably would have been like my version of Indiana Jones, like Lord of the Rings is my Star Wars.
Yeah, I certainly see that.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like a 9 or 10-year-old growing up watching Pirates of the Caribbean would have been like watching Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I think we have to get to it about Johnny Depp himself and the future of the franchise, because yes, it's quite messy, but like what they're going to do, because the fifth one was a production nightmare mainly because Johnny Depp had a lot of personal issues. I think we all remember like the incident of like the war on Terrier, and in Lindsay Ellis's YouTube video on the franchise, she's saying like that he pretty much had a he had an earpiece and someone read the lines back to, so he just recited them. So he didn't seem so invested in the character. And like because of all his issues, he like they had to pretty much had a production assistant at his hotel, pretty much had to get him out and get him on set, because obviously, as we found out of the court case, that his relationship with Amber Heard was quite turbulent.
It's putting it mildly, but yes.
Yeah, yes. And obviously, the fifth one was financially the least successful, and sort of throws it. And they even had the fifth one as well. They actually hadn't left it on a little cliffhanger of Davy Jones scene, like has come back from the dead. So they've got that, and as we all know, with Johnny Depp, it's looking like he's persona non grata in Hollywood because of because obviously the court case. I think everyone was surprised with the verdict.
Absolutely.
And I think if we excuse the whole sort of court case, my view would be, I think Johnny Depp does deserve at least one more film, maybe like the equivalent of a send off, the equivalent of Logan or something. Just so either his character dies or his character might, well, I think with someone like Jack Sparrow, what's more likely to happen is he would fake his death and then he'll take up an alternative identity and live as Lord Jack in a fancy, a nice, like a nice estate in America or whatever.
Yeah, I think he needs to have like a Han Solo in I'm blanking on the name of that Star Wars movie.
Force
Yeah,
Awakens?
Force Awakens. There you go. Han Solo in Force Awakens film where he kind of shepherds a new character, a new series of characters to take over the pirate's mantle, and then goes off at the end to leave the franchise.
Yeah, I think as well, because it would be a bit foolhardy as well for any film just to sort of completely jettison Johnny Depp, because here's one of the main reasons why those films became so popular in the first place. Because the talk at the moment is they can do a sick film and they're lining up Karen Gillan to do the role and a possible spin-off with Margot Robbie. And obviously, since we, the internet as it is, try and do, well, a lot of people are annoyed. But personally, I love Karen Gillan, so I would be very tempted to see if a sick film with her anyway.
And I'd be intrigued to see her in a starring role where she's forced to be more comedic, because even in the Jumanji film, she's really funny, but she's more of the straight man throughout a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see her get a chance to cut loose and just do something really strange and different.
And she can do comedy, because obviously with Doctor Who and everything, and she's that like Selfie, the sitcom.
Oh yeah, she's absolutely got the comedic chops and the dramatic chops, and she's incredibly talented. So I'd really like to see her get a chance to shine by herself without a cast roaming around her.
Mainly one idea I personally would have liked was if they brought back Zoe Saldana. She was in the first film, but she absolutely hated her experience on the first film, because she's apparently when she spoke to Cosmo, or Cosmopolitan even, she said that she felt like, the whole crew was quite snobby, quite elitist, and she was just treated as a glorified extra. She, even though because her role was quite small, she was quite memorable, like slapping Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, you bring in Zoe Saldana and you got Karen Gillan, you just basically have Guardians of the Galaxy hanging out together.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
I mean, I'd watch it. I think it'd be lovely.
Yeah, but as I said, I think Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, they all just deserve some sort of send-off, just so that then Disney can do what they want, whether they do a full reboot or a soft reboot or prequel or whatever. There's also like a report in the Daily Mail saying that Zac Efron considers for a prequel as Jack Sparrow, but
no.
Exactly, that's my thoughts. I think if they, with all the fancy stuff as well, you think there's so much potential. They could do a sort of, they could do like set it 100 years ago, set it in the like Elizabethan era, since British and the English and the Spanish were doing a lot against each other at that time because of various political and religious reasons. So if it goes, like things like Francis Bacon, Walter Raleigh, and all that. And plus, you can have mix in with the sort of mythology of like Aztecs, Mayans, or whatever. There's quite a lot. You can have a lot of fun with and creativity if they're allowed to. With like mixing history and fantasy.
That would actually be really fun. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, so it's just those are just a few thoughts that just came off on the top of my head. Obviously, I think we have to wait and see, because I don't know obviously Disney do have a potential cash cow there with a lot of their other cash cows. Oh, one final point. I do find it humorous that in the third film, the big villain was East India Company. The East India Company were the evil corporate entity trying to achieve world domination, and the pirates were the last bit of resistance, and yet a bit rich coming from Disney.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's so yeah. So obviously, to our listeners, let us know what your thoughts are on the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, with what you would like to see. Obviously, if you liked what you heard, like us on Facebook, subscribe, follow us on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And thanks for listening. Cheers.